Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. We're out in the garden today. It's a beautiful day, even though it's just March 16th. And I'm holding off on planting tomatoes because I've been fooled by nice weather before. But we are going to plant some strawberries. And I want to tell you just a little bit about strawberries, questions that people in the group have raised. This particular bed is an established bed. You can see it was heavily mulched, and that little plants are growing up through the mulch, and you can see they have blooms on them, and before very long they'll have some strawberries on them. This is this bed's second year, and these are June bearing strawberries. And that's important, because when you go to buy your strawberries, you need to know what to expect. So June-bearing strawberries have generally one crop per year. They'll have a few stragglers, but mostly they'll have from April through June. That's about all you're going to get. June-bearing strawberries, it's generally recommended that they be planted 1 year, and then you harvest the next. They put out lots of runners, and those runners, each one will make a plant. But the first year, it's recommended that you pinch off all the runners and all the buds and not harvest. And then the next year, you get strawberries. And my experience from these is that you get lots of strawberries, big strawberries, and the birds all go crazy, and so then you have to cover them up. But each plant generally produces for about 3 years, and once you get a bed established, then you go every fall and you pull out the oldest, and you can generally tell the oldest. They're big and the leaves are starting to turn dark colors. And you reset a couple of you reset some of the runners to replace the ones you pull out. And a bed can become perennial. The plant's not perennial. It lasts about 3 years, but the bed can become perennial. And that's with June-bearing strawberries. What we're going to plant today are ever-bearing, day-neutral strawberries. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. And this is another strawberry bed. And by the way, this is a strawberry bed we're trying to get rid of. We pulled everything up, or we thought we did, because we had planted this in one of those 6-foot pyramids. I know you've seen them. And oh, it was beautiful when it was growing, but you couldn't reach the middle. And it was very difficult to keep the birds off, to keep it covered, to keep the birds off. So we're trying to get rid of this bed. And we pulled up all that we thought was growing, but gee whiz, you see it's coming back. And in that way, strawberries are much like weeds. If you don't contain them, they'll go everywhere. And I've just decided just to leave this, let it grow, see what we get. Might get a few random strawberries here, and they'll be good. So let's go plant some strawberries. Okay, Fred has made a new bed here, and it's about 24 feet long, 2 feet wide. Our goal was to establish strawberries in a bed where we could cover them with a net to keep the birds off, and so that we could easily work it. So what do you need to know when you're deciding where to put your strawberries? Well, strawberries need full sun, and they need fairly soft, friable soil, but they're really not very picky. Don't put them in clay. You don't want hard soil. Just something with plenty of organic matter that's pretty easily worked, and they get a lot of sunlight. So let's start planting. Okay, these are my little strawberry plants. I ordered them. I've had them in the refrigerator, and they are sprouting anyway. These are ever-bearing, day-neutral, and all day-neutral strawberries are ever-bearing, but not all ever-bearing are day-neutral. And that doesn't make any difference. I just happened to tell you that. These are different than June bearing, because June bearing strawberries need to be planted in what they call a matted row. You spread them out, recognizing that they're going to put out shoots, and you leave space to put the shoots, and it sort of makes a matted up row down your bed. Everbearing are different. You just plant them as individual plants. We're going to put them about 1 foot apart. With everbearing, we can pick the first year. We should get some about midsummer, and we can go ahead and pick them. They're not going to put out a lot of shoots. They'll put out some, and the ones that they put out, we'll stick back into the dirt and let them grow. But you don't have to come up with some intricate pattern to maximize the space with the everbearing. Just put them in the ground. Generally, you make a little hill up around them, and they'll grow for a couple, 3 years. Or in a commercial application, they plant them, they harvest them, they pull them up. 1 year is its lifespan. So we're going to start digging. I have a bucket of warm water here. I'm going to drop these down in here to help separate them without doing any damage to them. And then I'll use that warm water for the planting. And I'm going to let them sit in the warm water 10-15 minutes and then separate them out. Mulching this heavily with pine straw. I'm going to cover it pretty deep. The reason for pine straw, as opposed to any other mulch, is it will deter the germination of any weed seeds that I've disturbed in the digging. Because we did treat this bed with the horticultural vinegar, but we don't want the weeds to come back. And I dug, and if I pulled some up, then they'll germinate. So I'm covering with the pine straw all the way down, and I'll be back. All done. Strawberries planted, ready to go. Because these are everbearing, I expect to be able to pick some from these this year. We'll probably plant another bed of June bearing so that we have both a good harvest at one time, so I can put some up and some to snack on all along throughout the summer. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope to see you again tomorrow.